Well, the day we were supposed to leave for the pad, Buckeye Stoves was actually here installing a new pellet stove and a new chimney liner in the house. So let's just say things were a little bit hectic the morning we were set to leave. While the guys from Buckeye Stoves were in the house working on that situation, everybody else was out back trying to get the cars ready to load up onto the trailers and tie them down to start our trip down to New Orleans. Tony and Tess are going to load their white Mustang on the back of Billy's 2-car trailer and pull it down behind Billy's dually. And originally I was planning on taking the Malibu down on the open trailer behind the 64, but I made a last-minute decision to switch to the Suburban since Tyler and Joanna from New York are going to be riding down with me. Once we had the cars loaded and all our luggage loaded into the vehicles, it was time to head down to the Flying J to top off everybody's fuel tanks before we hop on the road to begin the 933-mile drive from Central Ohio all the way to Louisiana and New Orleans. Now, we've made this trip plenty times before, but this time we're not going to drive straight through like we usually do. We plan on stopping in northern Alabama to get dinner and hotel rooms so we can get up the next day fresh and not have to drive all the way through knocked out like Tyler is here. The trip down to Montgomery was pretty uneventful until we made a pit stop to get a bite to eat at Logan's Roadhouse. I ordered my usual steak filet, well done, with A1 sauce, but what they gave me most definitely was not A1 sauce.
You didn't believe me.
And then I went back to the double check, and then here I am telling you that they lied to all of us and there's no A1 in the building.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this is probably the worst Logan's Roadhouse in the world. Even though the food was terrible, we were all still having a really good time and excited to get a hotel room and get some sleep. So that brings us to Friday morning, where we woke up at the Holiday Inn Express, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to start breakfast. Well, maybe everybody except Tyler Desantis, who was a little grouchy. What you eating there, Tyler?
My fucking my gourmet breakfast this fancy hotel was sitting at.
That looks like dry Fruit Loops.
That's all I got.
All you need is a Mountain Dew and you're set.
I don't know what Tyler's crying about. I eat my Fruit Loops like that every day. But anyway, once we got done with breakfast, we got back on the road, and the roads in Montgomery were beating me to death. And Tyler's can of C4 rattling in the cup holder was about to drive me over the edge.
I don't know what this guy's crying about.
Once we got off the concrete highway in Montgomery, Alabama, everything went pretty well until we started to get into some rain down around Tuscaloosa. Luckily, the repairs to the wiper motor on the Suburban held out for the entire trip. We knew that the weather forecast was questionable, but it looks like we're going to be able to get this thing in over the course of the entire weekend. For tonight, we just need to get checked into the Airbnb down in Waveland and then make the 1-hour trip from there over to the pad for driver's meeting around midnight. Now, Billy had shown me pictures of the Airbnb that he reserved, and I'm going to tell you I was pretty impressed. It's within a few hundred feet of the coast, on 20 acres, and the place is absolutely gorgeous. Pictures and video don't hardly do this place justice. Once we got there, everybody unloaded their luggage, and we started figuring out where everyone was going to sleep. I don't know how many bedrooms there are in this place, but there was a lot. The house was fully furnished and every room had a television. And the living room and dining room area was so big I could fly my drone inside without any problems at all. Once everyone got situated in the house, it was time to go out and fire up the Malibu and make sure it was ready before we go to the driver's meeting at midnight. Tony wanted to make sure his four-ways worked, but my main concern was the tune-up in the Malibu and making sure that it was going to run okay with the amount of water that's in the air down here. As I let the car warm up on the trailer, I fired up the bottle heater and let the bottle pressure come up and also double-checked the tune in the laptop. Finally, it was time for everybody to load up and head towards New Orleans. The radar looks dry for tonight, so we should be able to get this thing in. There's only one problem. The recent cold temperatures have chilled the water in Lake Pontchartrain, and with the warm moist air coming in over the lake, very dense heavy fog forms over the area where the pad is located. This dense heavy fog and the moisture trapped in the air has got everything soaking wet, and everyone is waiting to hear what the call is from DJ, whether we're going to postpone this thing or whether we're really going to try and race out on these roads as wet as they are tonight.
We're going to do the regular cars tomorrow morning, and then the small tire going to be, you know what I'm saying, the regular schedule. If it be foggy tomorrow night, we're going to do them the next morning.
You heard me?
That's all, you know what I'm saying?
All right, everybody, so as you can probably see in the video and behind me, it's too wet out. BJ's gonna call it for tonight. There's just no way to get the road dry. There's no way it's ever gonna be dry enough tonight. And we're probably gonna have to wait till late tomorrow morning. BJ was hoping to get it off tonight because he felt like the police would be busier, especially being New Year's, but Unfortunately, the weather is just not going to cooperate with us tonight, so we're going to pack up and go back to Airbnb. Be back tomorrow, I guess. At this point, I'd almost forgotten that we had yet another guest showing up.
What's up, baby?
Oh my God.
Dude.
No. This is my room. No. Who told you that?
Your son was like, you know what? There's a bed up there in my dad's room. Woo!
As it turns out, sharing a bedroom with Uncle Jimmy Dale wasn't nearly as bad as I figured it was going to be. Anyway, the next morning we all woke up and we started getting ready to head up to the pad. It's still plenty foggy out, so nobody was really rushing to get ready. We were taking our time, hanging out, and having a good time in the house before we all had to leave. The kids had put YouTube up on the television and were playing old videos from New Orleans from prior trips down here with the S10 and the Falcon. Billy, Tommy, Allison, and I were the only veterans in our group that had been here before. So everyone was pretty excited to watch the videos except for Joanne, who fell asleep at the table waiting on us to get ready. Luckily, Tyler brought her alarm clock. Once we got Joe woken up, it was time for everybody to go jump in the trucks and head out towards the pad. It's about a 1-hour drive from Waveland, Mississippi, to New Orleans, Louisiana. The fog was still pretty heavy coming across Lake Pontchartrain, but by the time we got to the far east side of New Orleans, close to where the pad is, the fog was starting to clear out, and it's finally looking like we're going to get something done today. When we pulled into the truck stop, I finally got my first glimpse at the cars I'd be competing against in this shootout. All of them relatively high-dollar, late-model vehicles. And then there's my car. I got to admit the old Malibu felt just a little bit out of place. But we're going to head to the driver's meeting and see how things turn out with a chip draw.
We got a four. G in the right. G in the right.
Y'all said this was a
What you got on it?
I got a 9 on
Tell it's left, and then flip it over. You can tell that's a 9.
Yeah.
You got a 7. You got a 7.
Right here. Left.
Yeah.
Double.
12's got a 7. 12's got a 7. Right there.
Where they at?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
All right. So, drew 7 left. 7th pair left lane. That's the lane I like. Typically, we've always done really well here in the left lane. The thing about the left lane here at the pad is the left lane is the curb lane, so there's no room for error. If the car moves around, there's a chance you could curb the wheels on the left lane, but I'm not worried about that. The right lane, there's a lot more room for error, but typically the right-hand lane hasn't been as good for us here in the past. Doesn't mean it's going to be that way this time. I haven't been up there to the spot yet, haven't laid eyes on it, haven't looked at it, but I've got a tune-up in the Malibu. We're ready to go. I've got a white Corvette. The guy said it's a white Corvette, but it's not here yet, so I have no idea. I don't know. We'll see. All we can do is our best. So once again, I fire the old Malibu up, bring the engine up to temperature, turn on the bottle heater, and start getting the car ready for first round straight off the trailer against what I understand is a blown C7 white Corvette. I just haven't seen the car yet. I'll be racing 7th pair in the left-hand lane. Once we got down to the pad, we found a decent spot to pull off the side and unloaded the Malibu as some of the first few pairs of cars passed me by to head to the starting line. I turned over filming duties to Joanne while me, Tyler, and Billy start forming a plan as to who's pouring the puddle and who's backing me up and who's filming and from where. They managed to get the first 2 pairs of the shootout down the street just about the time Tyler was setting air pressure in the slicks. But just as the 3rd pair of the shootout was getting ready to do their burnout, the police came and busted the spot. So the plan is everybody runs down to the truck stop at the end of the street and we hang out there until the police leave. Then we usually just turn around and come right back. And I wasn't about to load this thing on a trailer and tie it down when we can literally turn the air conditioning on, roll the windows up, and cruise down in style and comfort without all the headache. Joe and I made our way down to the truck stop and we just parked out front instead of going into the lot where we can get trapped in a bunch of traffic. And it didn't take but about 5 minutes and the call was made for everybody to return back to the spot and get ready for the 3rd pair. But it didn't take very long for us to get shut down once again, this time not by the police.
Didn't kill the power either. Dude got out, didn't kill the power.
Unfortunately, one of the cars in the shootout was involved in an accident.
There it goes.
Fortunately, no one was injured and the driver was able to get out of the car, and after approximately a 45-minute wait, we were able to get back to racing. All right, guys, so we got through first round there. My man in the white Corvette was having some trouble there, and I think he had to abort the run. Malibu got down. It wasn't pretty. I really felt that it would have made a cleaner pass than that, but there's a lot of dirt out there on that road. It's really difficult to get down right now. With everything that's gone on today, I'm sure with the crashes and the cops coming, like every time the cops come and everybody takes off, all the cars in the median drag sand and dirt out onto the lane. Plus, you know, everybody up there walking around in it and tracking it out. So I know it's dirty. The car didn't really come onto both kits until I was in high gear, but once I got into high gear, it was trucking. I mean, it was pulling really, really good. I don't feel like I could have really put more power to it. It was on the edge. It was walking around, G-body shuffling there quite a bit. So we took the win, but it wasn't as good as I'd like it to be. But we're not in the best conditions here today anyway. So we'll take it and we'll go on to the next round. We'll see how things go. I raised the hood on the old Malibu and checked everything over, fired it up and listened to the engine run for a few minutes, and everything seems fine. I would have really liked to pull a plug on it and check everything out, but that's just not going to happen today. There's not enough time before we need to be right back up for second round. So I got the car ready, heated the bottle up, and headed to the starting line. All right, so we're back up here for round two, and I feel like the car could have left on a little bit more. Although it is dirty up there, it's starting to clean up a little. So I'm going to start the ramp earlier in low gear to give the car a little bit better run at second. And then hopefully that'll equate to a little bit better, smoother transition into second gear out there and get down the track or the street a little bit faster with a little bit better run at the gear changes. By now the street's really starting to come around and get cleaner. The problem is I'm way too low on tire pressure and my suspension adjustments are not optimum. All right, guys, so we didn't quite make it through second round. These guys in this Trans Am there put it on me pretty good. I picked up a 10th that pass from my first round, so I did pick up a 10th and 1 mile an hour, but obviously I was going to have to put more power in it earlier in the run to have any chance at those guys, and most likely I was going to need them to make a mistake. We had a really good race. These guys, really nice people, very respectful. I really enjoyed racing with them down here. We'll take our lick and we'll go home, you know, we'll try and figure out something to come back and do better next time. To be quite honest, it was almost a relief when I went out second round, because now I get to go do streetcar stuff, or at least that's what I thought. I checked the car all out, pulled the cameras off of it, and then I started headed back to the Airbnb right about sunset. I've always wanted to fly the drone over the water on the I-10 bridge across Lake Pontchartrain and film my Malibu going across. But it wasn't going to happen today. As usual, the closer I got to the lake, the worse the weather got. By the time I got to the lake, I almost had to have my windshield wipers on and had to turn the defrost on just so I could see out the window. There's absolutely no way I'm going to get my dream shot of the Malibu crossing Lake Pontchartrain on this trip down to New Orleans. Maybe tomorrow I can try it again, but for today I'm going to be doing good just to get back into Mississippi and make my way back to the Airbnb house without getting in an accident or possibly running out of fuel. This is the longest I've driven the car since I put the new engine in it, and I really have no idea how many miles to the gallon I'm able to get or what the range is on a tank of fuel. Now tomorrow we'll be back at the pad racing the Falcon, and I won't have time to mess with the Malibu, but maybe the day after I can work on it and see what this thing's getting for mileage. So this brings us to Sunday morning at the pad. Today's the big day. This is the day that the fast cars come out. The serious business. The cars everyone has really come to see. My plan for today is to fly the drone and get as many good shots for the kids' video as I can possibly get. Tyler and I plan on working as a team to back the car up in the tracks, and Joe plans to work on videography and narration.
This fucking guy.
He don't stop eating.
Never stops eating.
And he don't share.
All of this led up to Billy drawing Joey Heichel for third round in small tire. A matchup everyone wanted to see. To celebrate our win over Joey, we all decided to go to Texas Roadhouse, and evidently someone had a plan for me as well.
Huh?
While we were sitting there eating dinner, someone hatched the idea to tell the waiter that it was my birthday.
Nah. You gotta get on there. Look at her face. She's mortified because you won't get on the thing. Who? That young lady. They don't give a shit. They just want to go back and do their job.
Bill, what you do for me? Come on, man.
Well.
Come on.
Push him around.
Attention, Texas Roadhouse! We have an extra legendary guest in the building tonight. This is my good friend Bill. Tonight we're celebrating his 21st birthday. All right, now on the count of three, you're gonna get everyone to stop what you're doing, finish what you're doing, and give us a loud, proud Texas Roadhouse yeehaw! Yeah! 1, 2, 3, yeehaw!
That was great.
He didn't have the heart to tell him.
That was great.
Love you. Happy birthday.
That was great.
Bill, thank you so much.
That was good.
That was great. It wasn't just good.
That was for Joe.
Thank you. I knew it. Had to be for some reason.
By Monday morning, we were all ready to just cut loose and have some fun. Everyone agreed there was no way we could call this a successful trip to New Orleans without a trip to the French Quarter downtown. And there was 0% chance I was going to the French Quarter without my Malibu or my new videographer in the back seat. Bless her little heart, Jo was just having a party all to herself back there while we're on our way to racetrack a local filling station that sells E85. I wanted to top the car off before we make the hour trip back towards New Orleans, and Jo wanted to practice her catwalking skills into the drone. I've never laughed so hard in my life as to watch her walk straight into that drone while she's doing her catwalk. Anyway, we headed back across Lake Pontchartrain once again in the heavy fog. But once we made it to downtown, the weather was beautiful. After all the trips we've ever made to New Orleans, I would have never guessed I'd have my very own streetcar cruising the streets of the French Quarter, listening to the exhaust echo off the buildings. Anyhow, me, Tyler, and Jo found a good place to park the Malibu right outside the Cornet, where we'd all planned to eat lunch later. Since me, Tyler, and Jo had left early to go get E85 in the Malibu, we made it to Bourbon Street before everybody else. So we're just waiting on everybody to make it there from the Airbnb, and we decided to do a little shopping while we're passing the time.
It's a video.
The gift shops in New Orleans are pretty wild, and I don't think Jo had ever seen anything like what we were seeing here in this place. Jo and Tyler are from New York, the Big Apple. We are in the Big Easy, the home of Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras, and basically Sin City, just in a swamp. The sights and sounds of the French Quarter in New Orleans are unlike anything you'll see anywhere else, and there's people from all different walks of life, both good and bad. Jo decided to walk around with the camera and just film anything that she found interesting. We hung out and listened to this live New Orleans jazz band play in the street for about 5 or 10 minutes while we're waiting on everybody to catch up to us back at the Cornet. I really got a kick of this old guy back there on the drums. He was doing a hell of a job. I thought it was pretty awesome for a guy like that at his age to be out there playing drums on the street in New Orleans on Monday morning. It was about this time that Jo spotted this little place called Fisher Gambino, and they had some really cool interior decorating things for sale in there. We checked that place out for a few minutes and then met everybody back at the Cornet for lunch. We decided to go up onto the balcony so we could watch Sam and the girls from Young and Boosted pull up in the limousine. I guess the food and the atmosphere had Rob feeling some kind of way. He decided to go out on the street and do a little dance to the jazz band playing across the way. It's pretty bad when even the pigeons in New Orleans feel uncomfortable. After watching Robbie dance topless out in the street, I decided it was time to get the heck out of there. But Billy peer pressured me into christening Bourbon Street with a Malibu before we left. We figured it was probably best if we lay low for a little while and let things calm down. And we found the perfect place to hide the car out of sight while we get to make some decent content at the same time. The last time we were in New Orleans, we visited the World War II Museum, but we didn't get a chance to see everything. There were a few exhibits that were still under construction the last time we were here, so I figure this is a good opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. We get to see what we didn't get to see the last time we were here, and we can hide the car from the authorities in an attempt to avoid being charged with reckless operation and possible public indecency. Jo was definitely excited at the opportunity to go in and see this place. This was her first time to New Orleans and the very first time to a World War II museum of any kind. I think out of all the displays there, Tyler's favorite was definitely the machine guns. Unfortunately, we were running short on time as usual. We didn't get a chance to see everything we wanted to see, but we definitely had the opportunity to see the exhibits that we didn't see the last time we were here. Once we were done at the World War II Museum, we all decided we wanted to go back up to the French Quarter and get some drinks and maybe some dinner later this evening. So we made our way from the World War II Museum back up into the French Quarter to just relax, hang out, and enjoy the nightlife here in New Orleans. All right, our time in Mississippi is coming to an end, but we've left the Airbnb, we're getting ready to start the trip home, but we have one little thing we gotta do first. We gotta stop and see the man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Dakota. When Bobby found out we were stopping by to film a podcast, he wanted to make sure he had something for everybody to eat.
I know you always go to restaurants and bitch about
Bitch!
you need it crispy and you like it burnt.
Yeah?
You ain't gonna get no burner than that up there.
Holy shit, it's
I don't
perfect.
eat it, but it's funny.
You got A1?
But it's something else.
Oh my God.
You always burn the shit out of stuff.
Oh,
there you go. Throw it at somebody.
You do love me, Uncle Bob.
Bob thought he was going to punk me out, but I ate every bit of that pork chop and hamburger. But just in case I wasn't interested, Legend definitely was. Once we got done eating, Bob gave everybody the tour of his new shop and some of his plans for the next few months. But by far the coolest thing I got to see was his new small tire streetcar that he's building. Now everybody that knows Bob from day one knows he started off in a Maverick that was Ford powered. So it was no surprise to me when Bobby mentioned he was thinking about putting a Coyote in this thing with a 10-speed automatic overdrive transmission. While the guys were all busy checking out that little Fox body, the girls were all getting acquainted with Legend. And Legend, a lot like Bobby, is quite the ladies' man. He spent most of his time trying to hang out with the girls, which was fine, until things got a little bit awkward a few minutes later, when poor Lauren had to put him in his place. I feel like Legend was doing his absolute best to behave himself while we were getting everything set up to film this podcast. And he did pretty good for about the first 35 minutes. And after that, he just couldn't hold the urge off any longer. He decided to tear into Tyler's leg. I guess Tyler's gray sweatpants had him feeling some kind of way. Bobby finally had to stop the interview and tell Legend to calm down. By Wednesday, we had made it back to Ohio. We drove straight through, all the way from Mississippi. Unfortunately, though, it's time for everybody to unload, unpack, and start heading back home. Joe and Tyler had already headed back to New York, and Tony and Tess were flying back to California. It's pretty incredible that people from all over the country all got together to hang out and go racing with us down in New Orleans. But no matter how long everybody's here, it seems like there's never enough time to do everything that you want to do. And while we're all thankful for the opportunity to do these things that we're doing, it always sucks having to say goodbye. We packed up everything in the back of the 64 and we started making our way west towards Columbus to John Glenn International Airport. As usual, we were running late, but we managed to get Tony and Tess dropped off in plenty of time to make their flight. And about the time we were getting everything out of the back of the 64, I got a text message from Tyler and Joe, who were midway across Pennsylvania by now. And they just so happened to come across a Facebook post on their way home that has Joe and Tyler pretty excited. Tyler's recently had to move his shop, and he had to let go of a little Mustang that he had bought from Tony and Tess out in California. But they found the car listed for sale on the way home.
I'm scrolling on Facebook and Joe's doing a great job driving. I'm sleeping. And I see my yellow car that I raffled off for sale. Bam, hit him up. And now we're in PA picking it up.
1 minute away.
Hopefully it looks as good as it used to 3 days ago when I raffled it.
I would fucking hope so.
We'll see. So you don't see it?
No.
I see it.
Oh, I see it.
There it is.
Ooh.
My God. If I was driving past here, I'd have to stop. There she is. My God. Joe, what do you think?
Just as you left it.
Coming back home to Papa.
It even has bomb squad still on it.
Fucking mint.
Tyler managed to drive the little tropical yellow Mustang all the way back to Long Island, and Joe followed him home. A perfect ending to a nearly perfect weekend of racing and hanging out with some of the best friends anyone could ever hope to have.